Cash Physical Therapy Headquarters podcast. Today, we're doing Ben's birthday giveaways. It is not officially his birthday, but it's coming up this Monday. And so Ben and I thought it would be an excellent time for us to share the top lessons that let me get this live on Facebook real quick. That button's so stupid and annoying. I think maybe eventually we'll just stop going live on Facebook. We'll just do this thing right on YouTube. What do you think, Ben?
Might as well.
Yeah, might as well. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Cash Physical Therapy Podcast. Hope you have your coffee. You're ready to get after it today because we are giving away our top lessons and takeaways from the last year in celebration of Ben's successful rotation around the sun. Hopefully, I didn't just jinx it on you, Ben. You still got a few days.
Yeah, I've still got a few days.
Yeah, to stay out of traffic over the next few days.
Not leaving my house.
Sage wisdom. So today we're going to talk about the biggest takeaways that both Ben and I have had over the last year, both in life and in business, hoping that it will help you avoid some of the just hard-fought lessons and mistakes that we made over the last year, as well as just some of the wisdom that was shared with us from our mentors to help us circumvent the errors that they made inside of their lives and businesses. So make sure you take notes because I think this is going to be a really, really powerful one, and we're going to move pretty quick. So Ben, put you on the spot. Would you say is your biggest takeaway, or at least one of them, from the last year of life?
I think it's just where the profession's at in general. I think the profession shifted more in the last year than it has any other year that I can remember, in a couple different ways. One, just kind of a wake-up call that the APTA is not going to be able to turn this reimbursement issue around, not because they're necessarily doing anything wrong. They're fighting the wrong battle. Is my opinion what's going on. The APTA doesn't have enough money to actually fight these insurance companies. And these are massive corporations, massive entities, and no matter, they just have more money than us. And there's just, you just can't fight them. And I think we're just fighting the wrong battle. And the APTA needs to, in my opinion, shift their focus onto how do we not become reliant on, how do we not stay reliant on insurance reimbursement, and start shifting away from that and shifting more towards how to teach and coach people on how to start cash-based practices. That's the only way that you get these insurance companies to start feeling it, because at the end of the day, the insurance company's customer is the patient. And if we can start educating patients and the general public on insurance and how it actually is a complete ripoff when it comes to physical therapy, then they start changing their tune a little bit. And if patients start waking up to that, that's when insurance companies start feeling it, and that's when they start changing reimbursements and start shifting things. So I think it's more so just the state of where we're at with reimbursement rates. The reimbursement rates have decreased for every single year. I've been a PT 7 years. It's never gone up, and it seems like every year it's like, oh, this year will be the year that it will increase. It's just never does. And so when the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, 100% agree, and it's really, really exciting to see how it's changing consumer behavior, and it's about time, because at a certain stage, politics and diplomacy has to be put aside. Eventually, when change doesn't come, there has to be a mutiny. And that's kind of what's happening, not just in physical therapy, but in chiropractic, in functional medicine, and direct primary care. Clinicians in all specialties are realizing how messed up the system truly is. And I think Cash physical therapists were some of the first to inspire this change of what treatment and healthcare can really be when you go against the grain and you finally kind of take that control into your own hands. And, for decades, clinicians and, doctors have tried to teach consumers how to live happy and healthy lives. And I feel like just telling them, obviously hasn't yielded any results. It's like, but the actions that clinicians are now taking that are leaving the traditional healthcare system to go cash, like the clinicians have always been viewed as leaders, right? But it wasn't until they started to go out and risk it all on going cash based that consumers started to see this shift and see like how big this problem truly is. And now people are really starting to value like holistic treatment that really focuses on getting to the root of the issue. And so even in like if you look at the metrics on the growth rate of cash based healthcare services over the next 10 years, it's insane. Like cash physical therapy, obviously continuing to grow, it's exploding. When you look at direct primary care, like that's supposed to grow by 15, 20% over the next 10 years. And functional medicine is supposed to 10x, which is insane. And that's not just because of clinicians are going out to start it, but because demand for these services are exploding. And so we're dealing with a new consumer. Like even if you go in younger generations, like they're not drinking like they used to. They're being more active, and it kind of gives a little bit of hope that although younger generations, they love social media, they love playing video games, they're also getting out of the house and going out for more experiences because they know that not only healthcare is like busted and they're trying to be more healthy and seeing like the foods and crap we ate are killing them, but they're also like they're valuing their health and experiences a lot more, which I think gives me hope for the future.
Yeah.
That we're not just going to end up in the matrix in the next like 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, the consumer is definitely changing. It's in the last 2 years, it's been increasing every quarter on when we get people asking about, do you take insurance? And it used to be a negative.
Yeah.
It's very few and far between, but we're getting it when we normally didn't, where people are like, when we let them know actually that, hey, we don't take insurance, like, great, because I wouldn't work with you if you did.
Yeah.
So people are waking up to it. And so I think it just comes back to it's our role as physical therapists to educate people on that. So like when you get hit with an insurance objection, make sure that you're not just folding and like, okay, and just like go on your merry way. Like educate them on why you're not and why it's beneficial and it's going to save them money in the long run by not doing it, right? Maybe they move forward with you, maybe they don't. But the more that we can educate people, the faster we get over this bullshit is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing that's changed a lot in this profession is just burnout rate is insane. Like PTs are just not making it very long anymore, and it's making the job market very difficult to hire because there's so much fewer PTs because of the burnout. So that's the other lesson I've learned is you not only need to be always hiring, but we're having a PT and like we have we're like building our bench. What I mean by that is really actively hiring constantly. Like we're doing interviews constantly, even though that we're not technically hiring, we're taking people through the interview process. So when the time comes, we have a pool of applicants, and we also have a nurture campaign for PTs as well. Like we have a nurture campaign for our patients. We have a nurture campaign, email campaign, text campaign that goes out for every PT that's in our pipeline as well. That goes out every 45 days. Like, hey, so and so, we shared this. One of our clinicians, a running specialist, shared this running resource. Thought you might find it helpful. Here it is. Here's a link. Hey, we went over this during our Con Ed meeting this week. Thought you might find it helpful. Here it is. Feel free to send this to somebody else that any colleagues that might find this helpful. Right now, we're getting our name out there more because they're forwarding it. But it's also just building value. So when the time comes that we're ready to hire, it's not like we're just coming out of left field. We've been in communication with them almost every 45 days at this point. And even if they're not ready to hire, if they're not ready to for a new position or come on with us, we've just been done nothing but build value. So when we ask them who they know, they're much more likely to actually send somebody our way because they want to reciprocate the value that we've already done for like the last few months. So that's the other big thing. The lesson learned is always be hiring and be building your bench and make sure you're nurturing your leads there too.
Right. And the other side of that, I'll double down on that. That is one of the greatest takeaways we've had over the last year too, where it's you're team and the processes that you build to onboard, support, and nurture them and to grow them, like that's a whole nother offer in itself. Like your employees are the offer or are the customers of your culture and the systems that you build within your practice. And if you want to attract the top talent, you have to build in systems just like you would for your patients to nurture leads, to give them a great experience, to show them what's truly possible through the machine that is your business that you've built. And it's essential because it's so competitive out there. And cash physical therapists are positioned to change the lives of a lot of PTs who think that there's no better options that are out there. And PTs like you and Will and Chris and AJ, Will and our clients, like they're changing the game because they are creating not just great outcomes for their patients, but they're creating tremendous cultures and outcomes for the PTs that want to work with them. And the PTs that can double down on that and create a great product for PTs to go through, like they're the ones who are going to win, because eventually all the solo practices out there, eventually this bubble has to burst. And there's going to be winners and there's going to be losers, and losers are either going to give up or they're going to go work for the winners. Yeah. And so I'm excited to see what the next couple of years are going to yield within that department.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think what you said about the solo practices, I think, yeah, that bubble just has to eventually burst.
Yeah.
And only the practices that are scaling are going to be
Yeah.
the ones that really survive. And at the end of the day, like when it comes to cash-based PT, for people that are just starting out, it's most likely going to be networking. Yeah. Networking in gyms and doing workshops. There's only so many gyms you can that if you got like 10, 15 solo practice owners, in an area, there's probably only 10 or 15 gyms. It's like you can't, there's just gonna be eventually this burst that happens where, it's these small practices can't survive.
Right.
And they're just better off just joining a larger practice anyways.
Totally.
Good job for themselves. So, so that'll be interesting to see too.
Another lesson in kind of a different direction, but kind of in the same vein that I've taken away from this year is absolute radical candor with anyone who's in your life. There's a quote that I pulled from, I don't remember, it was an Alex Hormozi interview. I don't remember the guy's name that was interviewing him, but you've probably heard this one where unexpressed expectations are premeditated resentments. And there's so many people that I've worked with in the last year who are stuck in their lives and in their businesses because they're just waiting for the people around them to kind of just get it. And they're not going to. And it turns into this like friction that's preventing them from doing what they need to do in order to win. Like we see this especially with spouses, where you have this big vision for what you're trying to build and you know what you need to do to get there. But at home, you're both kind of combative because you're working harder. You're giving them a little bit less energy than you normally would because it's pouring into this vision that's usually for the benefit of the family and for the spouse, but you never actually sit down and have that conversation. And so for me, as like my vision grows and expands, like I need to sit down and express that to Jenna, make sure she knows it's like, hey, this is what I know we can accomplish in the next few years. Here's what I need to do this, and make sure that we're both in alignment and on the same page so I can do this stuff guilt-free, and so that she can give me the support that I need in order to do that. And a lot of people, they're just so afraid to can express like, here's what I need to do to do this for you. Like, can we be on board? And it's sad how few people are like willing to kind of go public within their relationships with what they're doing and why they're doing it.
Yeah. I mean, it also goes down, like you said, for team members.
For sure.
If you have an underperforming team member, and you haven't set those expectations, it's like them trying to read your mind. Just other than
right. And like we had an employee who, there's someone who we really liked and probably had more of an emotional attachment to, rather than like practical reasons why they needed to be in the company. And there's so many things that they're doing wrong that we allowed to just slip by because we didn't want to deal with the the potential repercussions of just like being open and honest and just like kind of tough about it, where we're viewing, like I was viewing at the things that needed to be said as punishment when really it's just consequences, and not holding that line, and demanding excellence out of people and letting people know it's like, hey, like this is what I'm observing. Here's, what's going well, but here's what isn't going well and what behavior I need to see out of you to get the outcome that we both want. And if they're not willing to make those changes, well, then it's like, so you don't want the company to grow? Because that's what I hear when you kind of push back around the changes that need to be made. And that turned into like a really ugly situation. Like I can't stand the person now. And it's all because not expressing the right expectations from the very get-go, and removing emotion from conversations that have to be had with people. Because if you want to build something great, you have to have a high bar of and demand excellence out of people. And sometimes having that conversation can be tough, but it is always way tougher to deal with the consequences of not having those expectations and having that conversation. So if you're listening, the person that you're thinking of as we're saying this, it's time to have a conversation with them.
Yeah. And I think it's also, you get to one other lesson I've learned this year that kind of sparks this too, is you'll eventually, as you grow and scale, your team gets so large that you can't manage every single person. Like we have over 15 employees now. It's at the point where I can't personally support every single person one-on-one anymore. And that occurred about 18 months ago. And so now there's full-blown clinic directors at each location. So now my role is supporting the clinic directors so they support the team, so the team supports the patients. Right. So that's another shift that's happened that I really had to learn this year as well, is like, when am I not supporting my team by not promoting somebody else to support them?
Right.
And that's been a big game changer as well. And also it was a icing on the cake because I don't like managing people anyways. And so being able to find people that are even better at that and having those conversations than I was a huge win. So that's another thing too that I learned this year is, as we scale that, creating more support systems for somebody and promoting somebody to do that is now my role is supporting more of the clinic directors than the physical therapists in front desk.
Right. Because like people like you, me, and a few other people are in our world. It's like we are very direct. Like we know what needs to be done, and we execute at a really high level. When people don't, we don't understand, and we're blunt about it. But we gotta remember that we're entrepreneurs for a reason, and employees are employees for a reason. They need to be handled differently than we would want to be handled. And so for a lot of people, like they struggle with retention because they are still in that leadership role, when it would be better for the company and for the staff to elevate one of them to manage the rest of the team and kind of be that translator for you to get the right behaviors out of your team that you need to, without without souring the relationship or hurting feelings. It's got to be a little bit more political, but sometimes when the king or the queen is the one being the one to convey the stuff, sometimes it's a little bit too direct and blunt. And you need in this analogy, I guess it'd be the advisors to go in there and kind of finesse the outcome that needs to be had.
Yeah, I like the word that you used was a translator. That's exactly how I feel it is. It's like, all right, this is what needs to be said. Use this sandwich approach. Say something nice. Give the feedback, and with something nice. Like, I don't have the patience for it. I can do it, but it takes so much mental energy, and I hate doing it. I want to get over just stop with the BS. Here's what needs to happen, but that's not how people operate, right? And so putting that clinic director in place, like, hey, this is what I mean and what needs to be conveyed. Go put in a way that is going to be received well, in a way that I can deliver it, but I don't want to take the time and energy to do. Because I got other things to do than I don't know, coddle feelings.
Right. I think that that kind of like what you just said about like, hey, like I don't have the time to be able to like worry about feelings and like making sure that we're wrapping our team in kind of bubble wrap and making sure things are expressed the right way. But that same mentality was, what I've had. And I'm curious if you've had issues like this in your business where, like for the last year, I had the mindset of like, hey, if something needs to get done, who, not how, figure out like who's the right person to solve this problem. And so when it came to our data and IT operations, like tracking our KPIs, making sure that they're absolutely accurate, we hired someone to come in and build our dashboards. When it came to managing our sales team and building out better sales systems, we hired someone to come and do that. When it came to improving our client success experience in coaching our client success team, we outsourced someone to come in and do that. And in every single one of those circumstances, it was an absolute disaster. And I think we spent something like $400,000 last year on people that didn't create the outcome that we actually needed to have. And what I've learned is that the CEO's job isn't just to identify problems and plug people in there. When it is the most important problem, like the biggest constraint in the company, the CEO's role is to go in and solve that problem. And it needs to be the CEO. It needs to be the person who understands each of these systems. We need to be like masters of everything to a degree, is at least been my experience, where if we don't go in there and build it exactly how it needs to be built and then delegate it, it's always going to be off. And in a lot of cases, it's going to be a waste. And so for like Elon Musk, like there's a story going around where they had a big problem. His team was like, yeah, it's going to take like 2-3 months for us to fix this. And he's like, fuck that. Like we're going to fly everyone in. He airdropped himself into that portion of the business and they got it done in 24 hours. Mm-hmm. And that to me is not like my role as a CEO now. Like where's the biggest constraint? Anything else I'm doing besides solving that one problem is a waste of time. So like right now, I'm not making content anymore. The only issue that I need to focus on is rebuilding our sales team, and nothing else is going to move the needle nearly as much as that. So that's like my only focus now. So that's my biggest takeaway this year is like 99% of what we're doing is noise. Find the biggest constraint, and that is your only job until it's solved, and then delegate it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's something, it's so simple, but so few people do it.
Right. Because people don't want to learn the things that they suck at, but it's the things that you suck at. That's the reason you're stuck, because you keep hiring people to fix the thing that you suck at, and they keep disappointing, and you're wasting months and years and hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially trying to solve this thing where it's like, if you just stopped doing all the other crap and just did the hard thing and mastered that and built it yourself and then handed it off, you would solve not only way more problems, but although it might feel like you're moving slower, over the span of months and years, you're moving 10 times faster because you are actually solving problems the right way the first time.
I think there's also a lot of power in just knowing everything about your business.
Yeah.
And building every part of your business. Because if that person leaves, now you got to figure it out. Right. Or you go and hire it out and it's going to be done differently anyways. And now the team that works underneath that department is all confused because everything's getting shifted around. Right. Versus if you figure it out, it's your systems, your processes, you can coach and teach that.
Right. Right. So that's all we have time for here today, everybody. But thanks for listening to the Cash Physical Therapy Headquarters podcast. If you got value out of this, let us know in the comments. If you have questions on anything, we love reading your comments and answering your questions. So drop them below. And if you got some value out of this, don't forget to subscribe and share the podcast with someone you think who would get value out of the information that Ben and I share each and every week. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.